You're listening to the Joyful Practice for Women Lawyers podcast, episode 232. Welcome to the Joyful Practice for Women Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Paula Price, lawyer turned certified executive coach. This podcast was created to empower women lawyers just like you to create a life and practice you love. Join me every week for a break from the hustle so we can focus on you, what you truly want, and how you can create it. If you're over the overwhelm, done with putting out fires, and ready to redefine success on your own terms, you're in the right place. Ready for today's episode? Let's dive in. Welcome to today's podcast. If you are new to the podcast, my name is Paula Price. I am a lawyer turned coach for lawyers, and it is my job to make your job better, whether that means tightening up your time management systems so that you practice with greater productivity, more ease, less stress, whether it means gaining clarity over the direction of your career, steps that you can take in the short run and the longer term to align yourself with your goals, whether it means transitions, going from job A to job B, or even transitions within the job you have. Those are the things that I want to help you with. And so if this is a new experience for you, I'm delighted to have you here, and I hope you love this episode. If you are a returning guest, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you here. It has been a few years now since I've been recording this podcast, and I just love having you here. And I am so grateful for you to spend your time with me, whether it's every week or when you feel pulled in the direction of hearing something on this podcast feed. I'm just delighted to have this connection with you. So thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for sharing with your friends and sharing this resource. Now, today is a little bit different from a usual podcast episode in that what I'm doing today and over the next 2 episodes is creating a podcast version of a bootcamp. The reason for that is because one of the things that I find so amazing about the work that I get to do with lawyers is hearing about the actual tangible changes that you are making in your practice as a result of the work that we do together. So for example, today I've had a couple of really amazing reports from clients who talked about situations where they did something differently in an effort to build their confidence. So these were uncomfortable, difficult decisions that they made, steps that they took that pushed them outside of their comfort zone. And they were reporting on what that required of them and the satisfaction that they had after implementing these courageous acts. I also received a wonderful email from a client who told me about a new system that they implemented in their firm to increase boundaries around their time and how that was really having a positive effect on them and the lawyers that they were working with. And so I wanted to share with you episodes that would not only give you information or ideas, but also that would encourage you to take concrete action in your practice so that you too can experience results from us working together. So by the title of this podcast, I know that you know what we're about to talk about, and it is a topic that I'm really thrilled to introduce to you. We are going to spend the next 3 weeks working on what I have termed the less hustle, more calm reinvention. And what we're going to do is spend the next 3 weeks focusing on you transitioning from what you might feel has become a habit of hustle into a place where you feel a lot more calm, confident, in control of your practice. And there are 3 areas that we're going to leverage. And interestingly, at the outset, I had anticipated recording a single podcast episode that had all 3 of these strategies in it. And when I went to record the episode, I realized that in fact, that itself would be a bit hustly. That by trying to share 3 separate strategies in one episode would probably set you up for a feeling of overwhelm, that there would be too much to do all at once, which is the exact opposite of what I'm trying to help you do. I'm trying to help you have less hustle in your life, not more of it. Now, I get it. As a lawyer, there are times where you will absolutely need to hustle. There are times when all of us need to hustle. That is part of the way that we get things done, especially in circumstances that may be stressful or last minute or the deadline is imminent. We want to be able to move quickly to get things done. But when hustle becomes a way of life, when you feel constantly like you're running behind, trying to catch up, never have enough time, always feel stressed, you're starting to feel burnt out as a result, then we want to make some changes because we don't want hustle to be your default setting. We want it to be a tool that you can use when you truly need it. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on 3 separate levers that you can implement 1 week at a time, with the goal that as you implement what I will share with you each week, you will notice that between the time you start listening today, whether that's when this episode goes live or at some point in the future when you decide to take on this challenge, so between today and 3 weeks from today, you notice a real difference in your practice. You start to feel a lot more aligned with your goals. You start to feel more calm. You start to feel less like you're reacting in your practice and much more like you are the person in control. So what we're going to do then is over the next 3 weeks, we're going to focus on 3 themes. Today's theme is planning and prioritizing, and I'm going to give you 2 very specific assignments for you to complete. They're not hard. They will take a little bit of time, but the investment of time is worth it. Next week, we are going to talk about speaking with authority. This is going to force you to slow down, and you will start to notice that you are not talking, speaking, communicating, acting like a person who is hustling. You are going to be speaking and communicating with that sense of calm and authority. That will be very exciting. You will see the impact that that has on how you feel and how people respond to you. And then in the third episode, the third week, we are going to focus on responding versus reacting. So taking the time in the moment to choose deliberately what your next steps are going to be. So today, planning and prioritizing. Next week, speaking and communicating with authority. And week 3, we're going to focus on responding versus reacting. And what I would love for you to do is, number 1, follow along with these episodes and implement the strategies that I highlight for you. And I want you to notice for yourself what is shifting for you, what feels hard to do at first, what gets easier over time, and what do you notice when you start moving away from a habit of hustle to a practice of calm. So with that, let's dive in, and we're going to start a little bit by talking about hustle. Now, when I looked up hustle on the online dictionary, there were a number of different words that were used to describe it: forced, hurried, unceremonious movement in a specified direction. We talked about obtaining by force or persuasion. So I think of hustling somebody in a pool game or a gambling match. Busy movement and activity. So that idea of doing a lot of actioning, but not necessarily getting the results that you want or never reaching the end of your goal. And then to crowd or push roughly. So all of these words that depict hustle, they're a little bit aggressive, they're a little bit messy. And what I would encourage you to think about is what hustle means to you, what it looks like to you, and why you might want to reserve that for certain occasions, and why you may want it to no longer be your default setting if that's where you find yourself. And when I think about lawyers in particular, I know that you are capable and programmed to work really hard. It is part of your culture. It's probably in your DNA. And there's a difference between working hard and working in a way that is going to further your objectives, that is going to increase your skills. And so what we want to do is move away from hard work for the sake of hard work. We want to move away from hustle, and we want to be a lot more strategic in terms of where you are applying your efforts. We want to reduce the hustle, increase the calm, but we don't want to sacrifice impact either. And in fact, what we really want to do is focus on creating more impact with less of that hustle. So in terms of today, I'm going to give you 2 discrete assignments. Number 1 is going to be doing a time audit, and number 2 is going to be a 4D analysis. So, what is a time audit? This is where I'm going to encourage you to invest a chunk of time. Now, that time can be 30 minutes, it can be an hour. I would encourage you to go to a coffee shop to do this or sit someplace that is nice and comfortable, whatever is going to be easy and pleasant for you. And the purpose of a time audit is simply to get a very accurate snapshot of how you are actually spending your time, because there can be a pretty broad disconnect between what you think you're doing and what you are actually doing, and the value of what you're actually doing versus the value of what you think you're doing. So, what does a time audit look like? There are really just a few simple steps. The first step is to write down all of the things that you have done in a certain period of time. Now, you can do this based on a single day. Maybe there's a representative work day that you would use for this audit, in which case you write out everything that you did from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. You can use just your work time, or if you want this audit to be more comprehensive, then you might do your entire day, your work and non-work activities. For myself, I prefer the latter because I don't like to look at my work and my personal lives, if there are 2 separate ones. I don't like to look at them as separate. I like to look at them together, and there is a lot of interplay between those 2. But for you, you might choose to focus on one at a time. You might choose to focus on work first and then personal first, or whatever best accomplishes your goal. You might think about where you feel the most hustle and start there. So what you want to do is take a day, take a couple of days, take a week, and write out all the things that you do. Now, you could also write out, maybe looking over the past month or so, what are the key activities? The idea is to take an inventory that is written out on a sheet of paper in your own handwriting. You could type it too. I like handwriting. I think you need to do it more slowly. It's a little bit harder. It involves your whole body. And so it tends to be a more encompassing experience. But if you would prefer to type it, do that. The goal is simply to externalize that list and not have it be something that is internal. If it's just floating around in your head, you don't get to see it the same way. You don't have the same level of objectivity. Now, once you have externalized, you've got time that you can audit, we're going to park that for a minute and we're going to turn to a completely separate exercise, which is to identify what is most important to you. Now, you might think of this in terms of priorities, those core fundamental priorities that you have in your life, your values, and those might be things like integrity or education, family, health, beauty, excellence. So think about what your values are, the things that really drive you, and what are your priorities? What are the things that are a tangible reflection of your values? So time spent with family could be one of them. If it's excellence, it might be the performance of really high-end, high caliber work. If it's learning, it might be time spent learning through a CLE or learning on the job through doing work that is new and challenging. So you want to think about, okay, here are your values, the things that you hold as important. Here are your priorities, the tangible expression of your values. And make a list and perhaps do 5 values. And then in a corresponding list, what does that actually translate to? Because what we really want for you is granularity. The more specific you can be about what you want to prioritize, the easier it's going to be for you to see whether or not you're actually prioritizing those things. So if we look at your time audit, what we've done so far is we've done a laundry list, basically, of what you've been doing, your done list, if you will. Then we're looking at your values and your priorities. What are the things that are most important to you based on what you conceive of as most important? And then we're going to do step 3, which is to compare the 2. So you take what you've done, you take what you think is important, and then you compare them. And you can do this sort of piece by piece if you want. But what I'm going to invite you to arrive at to make this exercise concrete is a number on a scale of 1 to 10 that assesses your alignment between what you've done, what you do on a day-to-day, and what really matters to you, and to identify the gaps. So if you rank yourself a 5 out of 10, you will see that there are a number of items on your list that accord with your values that align because you're at a 5. So you're not at a 0. If you were at a 0, we're talking about a different comparison. But if you're at a 5, there are reasons why you're already there. And there are reasons why you have not given yourself a 10 out of 10. So we want to gain awareness of what you are doing that is aligning with what you want. And we also want to do an analysis of what is missing from that list. And this is going to be really helpful. And if you want, this would be a great stage to make some notes about what you could do that would bring you to a 10 and what you might let go of that would bring you to a 10. And also, what are you already doing that is working really well? What are you already saying no to that is serving you? So that is the first exercise that I'm going to encourage you to do this week. You are going to sit down and do a time audit. That is a 3-step audit where you are, number 1, writing down what you did in a certain period of time. Number 2, writing down your values and priorities, what's important to you. And number 3, comparing those two things and giving yourself a score and some additional information about that. What's working, what's not working, what are you doing well, where is there room for improvement, what do you want to do more of, what do you want to do less of, those types of questions. And the next exercise is going to help you really build out on that last piece. But for now, that is the first part of the exercise. So before we turn on to that exercise, I'd love for you to build in some accountability. So imagine yourself doing this exercise, writing out these 2 lists, doing that comparison. I'm going to estimate that it will take you between 30 minutes and an hour. You can absolutely spend longer on it. And if you have the time, absolutely use the time. But you've got a week and I want this to be doable. So reserve the time. Decide now when you're going to do it. Maybe it's tomorrow morning. Maybe it's on the weekend. I'm thinking about it for myself. I'm going to do this alongside with you. I'm going to carve out an hour on Saturday and I am going to do this audit then. So that was step 1. And now you've got step 1 and you can schedule that so that it will happen. Make this a priority. Now, step 2 is going to be applying the 4 Ds. Now, again, going back to the theme of this whole podcast series, these 3 bootcamp-like episodes. And again, maybe bootcamp isn't the right word because I don't want you to feel like you're hustling. I want you to feel like this is a calm process. I want the process to reflect the result. And so if we take a step back and we think, okay, you are aiming for less hustle, you are aiming for more calm, then we want our process to feel the same way. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to invest heavily in this time you spend planning and prioritizing. Yes, planning and prioritizing. And I have a number of podcast episodes that talk about planning and prioritizing, and you can find those by searching the podcast. And I've got a roadmap, a podcast roadmap on all my time management episodes. And so you can go and download that list and you can identify for yourself where you might have some learning to do and which episodes would be most helpful and relevant for you. So you can absolutely do this. But in terms of creating a calm and hustle-free approach to this exercise, what I would love for you is to simply adopt a planning practice. It can look however you want it to look, that you plan maybe at the end of the week, at the beginning of the week, get a sense of what's on your agenda, plan in the morning, have a look at what's on your desk. Okay, what am I doing today? And what have I done today? What do I need to do tomorrow? So think about it at the beginning of your day, think about it at the end of your day. So to have on your mind's eye in terms of the next few weeks together, let's have a planning session at the beginning of the week where you map out roughly your day, your days and your week. And at the end of your week, so usually on a Friday afternoon, maybe have a reflection on what you did that week and what you have coming up next week. And then each day, you just want to sit down and plan a little bit before you start your day. And at the end of each day, do a bit of a wrap-up session with yourself. Okay, what have I done here? And what am I carrying forward to tomorrow? Now, here's where it's going to get really effective, where the rubber is going to hit the road. And to really create a shift, to separate yourself from the hustle habit and step into a place of calm and to be productive and to be focused on the items that are really going to move you forward, we are going to apply a 4D analysis. Now, the 4Ds, maybe you've heard them before, they are do, delegate, defer, and delete. And actually, we're going to do them in the order of do, defer, delegate, and delete. And I would love for you to have these 4 Ds in the back of your mind from this point forward, and particularly over the next 3 weeks, because we want to have extreme discernment over how you're choosing to spend your time. If you are finding that you are hustling and you are rushing and you are trying to get everything done and there's never enough time, my guess is that you have taken on too much. You have overcommitted yourself. And so we want to see where in your calendar you can start to pare things back, where you can start to say no. And we're also going to think about where you might start saying yes, where currently you're saying no. So let's go through each of these 4 Ds, and this will be a filter for you as you move forward, as you look at what is going on in the future. And you might also look back at your audit and start to analyze the tasks that you've already done and reassess. Does it belong in a do category, a defer category, delegate category, or delete altogether? So here's what I'd encourage you to think about as you go through the 4 Ds. That do category. This is how you are choosing to spend your days and your time. And my guess is that there's nothing on your done list that you didn't choose on purpose at some level. There may be items on there that kind of slipped in a little bit, but ultimately you did decide to do them. And so if you're noticing that there are items on that list that need to go, that maybe you've been doing unconsciously, and now that you're looking at it, you're realizing, you know what, this really doesn't belong here. This is a great opportunity to start weaning things off of your do list, either to a delegate list, a defer list perhaps, but if you shouldn't be doing it, i.e. you don't want to be the one doing it, we can take it off that do list altogether or delete it. Maybe it just doesn't need to happen. So we're going to be really specific. Now, things that are important for your do list are those things that really align with your values. So if growth is a value, if moving ahead professionally is a value, if taking on more challenging work, if developing new relationships or deepening existing relationships, if these are things that are important to you, we want to carve out time to do those things. And that might mean that you need to start doing things that are uncomfortable because they're new and unfamiliar and they require more effort and energy as a result. We want to be intentional about prioritizing those things and putting them on the do list. Family, if time with family is really important to you and you've noticed that that's been slipping because you've been prioritizing other things, whether it's something at work, whether it's something that has nothing to do with work, but you just seem to be doing it by default, we want to notice that and we want to move family up into the priority list. We want that on the do list. So if you think about your time in terms of hierarchy, you want to choose very carefully what goes into the do category. That is a list of things that you yourself are going to do. These are important to you. There's a reason for these items being on your list. So it may not mean there's a lot of changes, especially at the beginning, right? It might be hard to let things go. It will be hard to let things go. But from now on, and especially over the next 3 weeks, you are going to be very intentional about what belongs, what gets to be on that do portion of the list. Now, the next level of analysis is defer. Defer is going to be the next on your list. Now, when it comes to defer, this is an area, this is a category that often gets moved forward and sometimes gets moved forward so much that it never actually gets done. So in deciding what goes into this category, I invite you to be very intentional and be really honest with yourself. If the thing that you're contemplating is something that you truly want to do, and maybe there's a timeline attached to it, think about whether there are parts of that that you can delegate to somebody else to get the ball rolling. And if not, then we want to take ownership of that task and we want to schedule it in your calendar and we want to protect it. Because my guess is that if it's not urgent, one, it may become urgent, in which case you will eventually do it when it's urgent, or you can choose to do it at a time when it's not urgent. And that's probably the best case scenario. Not only does that give you more time to do the task, but it also proves to yourself that you are the kind of person who can put an item on their calendar and follow through with their calendar. And it creates a sense of self-trust, a sense of accountability with yourself, very much different from a hustle inspired mindset. So we want you to be intentional. We want you to plan ahead. We want you to adhere to the plans that you set for yourself. So what might be on a defer track? It might be a big decision that you're looking to make. You might not feel like you have enough information right now, or this isn't the right time. That could be a job transition. It could be a big life decision. It could be a project that you want to start that you know now is not the best time, but it's a project that's important. So these are things where you want to give yourself a very clear idea of when it's going to happen. You want to plan for it. You want to plan for it like you would a vacation. Take steps like booking tickets, flights, whatever, hotel accommodation. Those are things that make you more likely to adhere to a vacation plan or a travel plan. So do the same. If there are steps you can take to commit yourself to that goal, maybe it's enrolling for a course, maybe it's signing up with a coach, maybe it's engaging a friend to do this with you, but you want to make sure that you are locking that in and creating a clear time frame on which you're going to do that thing. So you're not just deferring willy-nilly, you are deferring, and there is a plan to implement at that point in time. So that is the second D. The third D is delegate. So these are items on your list that simply don't need to be done by you. And these can be administrative tasks that you're delegating to your assistant. It could be organizing time and files and creating project plans, something that you might be able to delegate to a more junior lawyer to take the first draft and then to run with the organization of a file, the management, the meeting setups, the note-taking, all of that. So think about where there's opportunity for you to delegate tasks. It could be your paralegal, getting them more involved in your practice management. It could be work that you're delegating to more junior lawyers. So maybe there are routine tasks that you do that you're really good at that are billable, but you want to move into a more complex area. You want to be advancing your skill set. And so you might be telling or taking those tasks and delegating them to more junior lawyers, training them to take over those pieces so that you can advance and grow and take on more of a leadership role. So delegate, we want to consider, we want that to be strategic. And again, the more you do that, the more you develop that delegation, the more you're going to free up your own time. In the long run, there might be initial growing pains where that takes more time, but in the long run, you've now got a team to support you. You've now got people who can help you with your work. You're moving from hustle energy to more in control. You are now overseeing the work being done by other people. You are freeing up, in theory at least, your own time. And then finally, delete. And this is where I see lawyers struggle the most, because if you're doing something, you're smart, you're capable, you're hardworking, there is a reason why you have been doing it, and it's going to be hard to let it go. So there may be things on your list that you are used to doing. You might be the person that people turn to when things are really messy, when they need someone who can solve any problem. If something is a total mess and they know you can handle it. Or maybe you're the person that has specialized knowledge and they know they can turn to you for that. Or you're the go-to person, or you like to do it. There may be many, many reasons. Maybe you have clients who have come to depend on you for not just legal advice, but for emotional support. Maybe they call you at all hours. Maybe you're used to saying yes and accommodating people into your calendar whenever it suits them. And so what you want to examine here in this delete category are what are the things that you are going to stop doing. And this is really tricky because what it might require is for you to break up with an identity that you have for yourself. If you see yourself as the person who can help anybody out, who's willing to kind of rescue others when they're in a really bad situation, and the new you, the hustle-free version of you, may need to set up boundaries, may need to say no, may not be available, may not be able to be the person who is going to save the day. If you need to shift away from your current identity into a new one, that may mean breaking up with a part of yourself that you're really used to, that you actually really like. But that version of you is the same one that is creating this hustle habit. And so we need to be really discerning about which parts of you we're going to say, thank you. You have managed to get me here. And for where I'm going, I need to let you go. You kind of need to do that if you want to move away from the hustle and into this space of greater peace, more calm, more focus, being more deliberate. So you may need to say goodbye. So what we have done here then is we've taken your time audit, right? If we start with step 1, we've got an audit, we've got a list of the things that you're doing, we've got your priorities, we've got an assessment of where you're at. And what we're going to do is we're going to want to shift you from wherever you are to where you want to be by applying the 4Ds. So this exercise is something that you can do in writing, right? If you're sitting down and you write out your to-do list for the day, you might run that analysis. What do you need to do? What do you need to stop doing? What are you going to defer to the future? What can you delegate to somebody else? And the more you practice this, right? You're sitting down, you're looking at your list, you're going through this analysis process, is you are going to become more discerning. As you're working throughout the day, as you're taking on task by task, ask yourself, is this something that you need to be doing? Could somebody else help you with this? Should somebody else help you with this? And so that, my friend, is your exercise for the week. So if we go back to where we started, we are creating more calm. You are becoming more in control of your practice. You are increasing your confidence in yourself by developing these practices, by being disciplined, by being clear about what's important to you, by doing, by not doing, by deferring, by delegating, to holding yourself to your calendar. These are the ways in which you are going to begin that transition from hustle to calm. So I'm thrilled that you are here with me this week, and I'm excited to see how you implement this in your practice. So we talked about having that session where you sit down and you do the audit. I would encourage you for the 4Ds to be doing this regularly, at least at the beginning and at the end of the week. And if you can, do it at the beginning and the end of each day. And in terms of how much time I would allocate, I would say for your weekly planning, again, maybe give yourself an hour. So I've given you 2 hours of that homework potentially. Plus, I would say maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of the day and maybe 5 minutes at the end of the day. So that's probably about maybe 3-ish hours that you will spend this week devoted to your audit, devoted to the 4Ds. So with that, I am going to wish you all the success in this first week of our time together. What I'm hoping for you is that you feel that reinvention, that you are not the same person at the end of our 3 weeks together that you are today. Not that there's anything not good about who you are right now. 100%, you are incredible, amazing, and accomplished and productive and professional. You are all of those things. And that part of you that you feel you want to reinvent, that transition you want to make so that you're feeling more proactive and less reactive, that hustle-free way, or at least hustle reserved for those key moments as opposed to it being that default habit. I am so excited to see the shifts that you make, the confidence that you build, and the calm that you bring into your practice and your day-to-day as a result. So thank you so much. Have fun this week. And I look forward to reconnecting with you next week, where we are going to dive into communication, speaking with authority, speaking with greater confidence, and how that is going to transform you from that feeling of hustle to calm and confidence. So thank you again for joining me. I'll look forward to speaking with you again soon. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to miss an episode, subscribe and follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you haven't already, please leave a rating and review. Your feedback will help me create a podcast that's tailored to your needs and goes straight to the heart of what matters to you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joyful Practice for Women Lawyers podcast. If you want more information, visit www.thejoyfulpractice.com. See you next week.